One of the people that made the arm drag famous is Marcelo Garcia, and in Abu Dhabi 2003, one of his first matches, maybe his first match, that really is one of the standout fights of jiu-jitsu ever, was his fight against Shaolin Ribeiro. And he ended up catching the arm drag, but there were a lot of dynamics that happened, and he ended up literally putting one of the best in the world at the time to sleep in 20, 30 seconds. And the style of arm drag that he used was more of a dragging to the ground style here. Now, we're going to take a look. There are a lot of possibilities that can happen. We're going to see how Marcelo finished it. We're going to see all the variations that can come up. So again, if Stephan's pushing, we can twirl out. But what is the value of twirling out? All it does is make sure that I know where his hand is at this point. Now, there are any number of ways to make sure that happens. I could simply, especially if it's less of a self-defense context, I'll just grab his wrist and push it there. It could be that he's got my wrist, and that allows me to predict, again, where his hand is. So however we get there, we're looking to get the hand there. We're going to stay for now with this twirling version here, and we're going to take a look at one more drill that can strengthen it. But what we're going to do is step to the outside and lean back to transfer our body weight to his arm. Now, just a few details. What we don't want to do is step with our toes pointed this way, because what we're looking to do is orient this way. So when we step out, we're here. I'm also not doing this, transferring my weight to that leg, because I then have to transfer it back. We're only stepping out, and now we're basically falling here. Now, there's a few variations. If Stephan keeps his hands off the ground, that means that I've got something to pull myself up with here. In this case, I'm not going to be really looking for his back, but more for a single leg here. This dragging action makes his leg walk right in front of me. Boom. So it's a very easy way to get a single leg. Now, we want to watch out, especially Nogi, especially late in a match. He might be really slippery. So if I come here and there's a lot of sweat, I just lose it all. So one way we can mitigate is, even though we said earlier we don't want to grab that wrist, now we're talking about setups where I do proactively control this wrist. To make sure I don't slip out, I'm going to keep control of the wrist and create a little Kimura style action here. Now again, if the hands are off, then I can pull myself up here. Let's rotate slightly. If the hands come down, however, even if the legs are up and I want that single, I can't pull myself up. So if he's posting and his knees stay up, I can't use this arm drag anymore. I've got to post. I wrap that leg. I want to imagine I've got a rhino horn here and I'm piercing him right through the ribs here. He can either stand up with me here, in which case we finish like a single, or if I can, I'm going to reach for this far leg here and drive him into a position where I can start working to pass his guard or get to the mount. If, however, when we get there, his hands touch and his knee is on the ground, now we're in perfect position to start thinking of attacking his back. Now, let's look from the opposite angle. So again, hands are down and knee is down. I'm not going to think about the single leg anymore. I'm going to grab his hip and post, come up to my knee, and we're going to think about taking his back. There's all sorts of variations here, so we're going to talk about most basic, intermediate, and advanced. So if we're here and he does nothing, we want to take the back, but instead of thinking of jumping on top of him, we're going to come here and slowly start peeling this heel out. The further back it goes, the more he has to drop his hip to protect his knee, and we're able to take his back and finish with the rear naked choke. So from another angle, I caught the drag and his hands are down and knee is down. I hold the hip so he can't get away for a moment while I now post, come up to my knee. Now, from here, let's rotate it slightly. If he does nothing from here and we want to pull him on top, instead of thinking of riding him and pulling that leg up or climbing his back, we're going to drag him to the ground by stepping our ankle inside his ankle and peeling sideways. The more I peel backwards, the more this torques his knee. He's got to drop his hip to protect his knee. here and now. As soon as we get here, we're gonna look to choke him. Now we talked about the details of the rear naked choke with that elbow going high. When we're doing it from a harness, I don't like to just think about this arm. As soon as we get here, in fact, on the way, while we're landing, this hand wants to slap his hand out of the way as this hand comes into place. So it'll look more like this here. Now we come in for our finish. So say we already got here, we hold that hip, we post, we come up to that knee. Now, another common mistake, if the knee is too inwards here, I can't really take that hand off the ground effectively. The knee has to be fairly wide so that my sternum can come all the way behind his back or behind the center of his back. Now we peel his ankle out sideways here and drop. Second leg comes in. Sometimes he's blocking this hook either with his hand or by his elbow knee coming together. So we know not to cross our ankles when we have the back, but here's an exception. If he's blocked that hook, I'm gonna hook here so long as my knee is on the outside of his hip. If we're down here, he can tripod and go face down and we start losing control. So here I'll cross my ankles. Now if that elbow and knee are still glued, we have two ways to get our hook in. If there isn't a massive size and strength difference, we can simply arch here. And then instead of trying to twirl this leg in front where that knee might still be high, we're gonna jackknife it by hoisting our foot or our knee to our shoulder and then stepping on his thigh to insert. If he's too strong here, and I can't do that, we're gonna keep our first hook, bring our top leg to the ground, and pull ourselves down in that direction here. That brings my hips lower on his hips so that even if he's strong and crunching, I can open him up more effectively. We step on his thigh, we insert, and again, both at once, here, and we'll go rear naked style, rear naked choke style. One more time from your feet. So we get control, boom, here he comes down. We hold that hip, we post, we get up to that knee, here. Peel that leg out, wide, fall to the side. Here, get our second hook if it's available. If it's not, here we cross with our knee over his hip, arch, jackknife, and choke. Or if he's too strong, we pull ourselves down slightly, and then we do it here, and we finish. Now, another way we can think about leg placement is not worrying so much about a hook directly, but especially as we get this kind of control going, it's very easy sometimes to get our heel over their wrist. Now, when this happens, this could be sufficient, but if I can get my shoelaces, my instep behind their back, even stronger. And now it's 2-on-1 and much better situation for me. Now, the value of this is, again, getting one of the arms out of the way. We still have that arm as a consideration. What Stephan wants to be doing is grabbing my wrist, or even worse for me, my thumb. Here, yeah. If he ever, and this is a really important point defensively, if he ever gets the ridge of my thumb, there's never going to be a finish. Now, what happens often is that I'll maybe be able to get some kind of latch here, but he grabs my wrist or thumb here. So how do we get rid of this? Easiest way is to use the heel of our hand to peel it up, or grab and twist in order to do the same. Here. Now we go to finish. And we're good. This is the more basic scenario where he hasn't really defended. The way he's going to defend, and this is very intelligent on Stephan's part, is if we get here and he simply kicks this leg back and drops to his hip here. Now, how am I going to get that left hook in? One, and two, if he keeps rolling, he might be able to bridge up, get up on top, and yes, I still have a seatbelt, but I'm in a very compromised position. So this is a common mistake, or rather a common defense that we have to anticipate. So when you've got the back and the person wisely chooses to drop that hip, we're gonna stop them by posting strong here. Now, what we want to do is get them to really commit to rolling so that they're loaded up. Then we're gonna post our head on the ground as our left knee inserts under them, and we do three things at once. We drag our heel backwards, we crowbar them here, and we get our hips out. And again, on the way there, we're getting both arms in position at once.
So you're not trying to jump over me faster than I'm rolling. You're stopping it, and then you're going when you're ready to go.
Exactly. So it's as I get more and more experienced, I can initiate But if I don't have the ability to stop you, then I'm totally dependent on having perfect timing. And I don't want to have to be in that position where the risk is too high. Not only do I lose the choke in the back, but you might actually get into a dominant position. So for me, it's way more important that I can stop that and then continue the motion. So one more time. So again, any arm setup, boom, here, come up, get that. He drops, post. Now we'll come over,